Hello there.
Hi.
Namaste. So nice to see you. Good to see you here. Hello, Hanuman Satsang.
Oh, yeah, we have to change that. We have to change that right
That's
away.
what I was like when I logged in, so I logged in.
How do we change that real quick?
You
Uh,
click on participants down at the bottom,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and then
yeah.
then we can change it now.
All right.
Let's see who you are now, Steve. No, what do we should call you, Ribu?
Oh,
That'd be a really good name, Steve.
I have a dream of memorizing a few chapters and being able to recite them. I think that'd be really cool.
Oh, that would be cool. I would never have such a dream for myself because I know it's more than likely impossible for me.
But that's how people used to do these texts is they'd pass them down from one generation to the other by just memorizing them.
Yeah, I don't know how. Can't remember much.
Oh, there's mental tricks you can do.
Yeah, if you really wanted to.
Yeah.
I guess I probably don't really want to.
Mhm. I thought I'd offer to begin with a question before we jump in. You often talk about discovering the truth of who you are, and I'm wondering if you could um, say a little bit about that before we jump into this latest chapter in
Mm.
The Way of the Bodhisattva.
Those words sound nice, don't they? Yeah. So what I mean by that when I say that is really, how would I say? I suppose like it's very simple really, because mostly when we're in life, like going around day to day, most people are taking themselves to be a character, like whatever character this is. Like so, I would take myself to be Amba, and whatever. Like she has this body, and then she has lots of stories connected to her. Like maybe she has a son, and she lives in this place, and she does this job, and she does this and that. But rather than, and of course, all them things are there, but it's not what I am fundamentally. So it's not what we are fundamentally, but more that we recognize um that everything that we're aware of. So I think like it's just like so it starts like we're putting our attention out there a lot, so in the world and even to like the surface of our skin. So then when we start to inquire, maybe we bring our attention inwards a bit, but then we're still sometimes people maybe think they're inquiring, when they're taking themselves to be their emotions. And like I think I was like that for quite a long time, like I felt like I did was like looking inward, but I was still totally caught up in this emotional world, like so. And I didn't really care so much even then, like about material things and all, but I was still totally caught up in stories of like I need to heal, I need to like let go of this problem that I have. um, but really when we slow down and just look, everything that we're aware of is arising in, you could say, like for lack of better words, it's arising in something else. So, like just when we're sitting here, you might be aware of the feeling of your body in the room. There might be some tension, maybe somewhere in your body. Or there could be feelings of lightness and brightness, it could be like tingly, light feelings. There's probably some kind of feeling, sensation here. If you look, but in order to see that or to be aware of that, there's something here that's before that. And it's kind of just like empty of everything. So it's not how we usually, like, if when we usually say I, there's often like there's just a whole sense about it, a whole kind of feeling. Even if you're letting go of thinking like I'm this or that, even when you come back to just the sense of being here, there's still like a kind of a sense. But if you're really honest with yourself, it's very clear to just see that even that sense of I is seen within where I'm seeing from, so and then you kind of there is a kind of a um there's a kind of an understanding, I think, when you see that it's not any feeling. Even though when you see it, there can be a very kind of feeling of quietness and peace and emptiness, even as a feeling in the body, or maybe not in the body, but as a feeling. But it's kind of understood at the same time that it's not that feeling as well. And it's very like, it's really nothing. Like it sounds like, because there's so many spiritual texts and all about it. Like in the world, it seems like, whoa, it's such an amazing thing. But it's actually the most basic thing. Like that's not really, like, on one hand, it's super amazing, maybe because it changes how you live, and it maybe changes how you think about things, and how you interact in the world. But really, it's just the most basic, ordinary, obvious thing. That's not a thing. It's like I have to be here to see absolutely anything, and everything is coming from that source of that source. It's like a source. So we are the source, you could say. So many people that talk about this kind of thing, they maybe use different words. So some people might call it a source, some people might call it awareness, some people might say truth. Some people, I mean, there's lots of different things, but none of those words really are true, because when you then recognize that, you kind of also start, maybe not initially in the very first moment, but the more you live as that, it starts to become more and more obvious that there's nothing apart from that. So the source and what's coming from the source are the same thing. Like there isn't a dividing line. There isn't a, sometimes it's talked about like that. It could be like I am is the doorway between, I don't know what they say, but between this world and beyond this world. So like there's two sides, but there isn't really such thing as a dividing line. It's totally seamless. Um, so in a way, some people might say like the truth of who I am is absolutely everything. Like I'm everything. But even to say you're everything, it's leaving out something if you're only thinking about that from a mind's perspective. Because everything could be like everything that you see physically, and everything that you experience, even sensations and all the senses. And that is true, that we are all of that. But we're more than that. We're the source of that. And the source of that is really where the magic is. So if you only come to see like I'm everything, I'm sure, I don't know if you can like come to see that you're everything without recognizing that you're the source of everything first. But everything is possible in this world, so maybe. Um, but I feel like that's where the magic is, so to say, is in recognizing that you're the source, because it's very obvious as well that all of these everything is coming and going, isn't it, all the time. So bodies are coming and going, sensations are coming and going. Everything that we're aware of comes and goes. And if we're not attached to them, then it's okay. It's fine. We don't really have a problem with that. But to recognize that we're the source of that, it's not really something that you can really talk about, even though like many people try to talk about it. And I think we all know it as well. You know, I'm kind of like tempted to say like deep down we know it, but not even deep down. Like in our heart always knows. It can't not know. It's just that we give so much attention to our minds and what we see and what we think about what we see, that we somehow overlook the knowing that's in our heart. So all of these spiritual texts are really to point us back to the knowing of our heart. And that reminds me of like a book. I think that book that Ananta wrote is called Knowing of the Heart. He didn't really write it. It's just like somebody compiled things that he said, Knowing of the Heart. So I think that's a really good um, description, because our heart knows all the time. But I remember someone saying that to me once. I can't really remember the story, but someone said to me, like, you're already enlightened or something. I don't know, we must have been talking about like you're already enlightened and you already know. It's like, okay, but I didn't know that, really. So like that made no, like it doesn't really put you at ease, or it doesn't really bring you peace when somebody just tells you like your heart knows already. So you don't just say, okay, thank God my heart knows. Because wouldn't that be wonderful? So even though it is true, like, oh, my heart knows. My heart knows like that there's nothing to worry about. We can totally trust everything that's happening is meant to happen. And like we don't need to be attached to everything, because like all of that is coming and going, and that's not what we are. My heart knows all that. But somehow we need to consciously be aware of that. It's not really that our mind knows, but maybe our mind just stops analyzing so much, and we stop giving so much importance to our mind. I don't think the mind has to particularly like be not there, because this whole world is mind. It's just that we have to know that it doesn't really mean anything. Same way we know that already about certain things. Like some things won't bother you at all. Like if someone comes up to you and says, "You're a cat," or something weird like that, you'd be like, "Okay." And maybe you'll be really kind to them, or maybe you won't be, maybe you're like, "Get away from me." But you'll know like it doesn't have anything to do with you, isn't it? So there's plenty of things that do come to our attention that are like that, and we just disregard them. But some things, you know, and even if it's only one thing, it'll bother us, you know. So we're kind of, I suppose, spiritual practice is about that. And I think that's an ongoing thing, because even though in one breath I can say, you know, I'm totally clear about the truth of who I am. And I do feel like even now when I hear myself saying that, I say, yeah, like it is true. And I also know that my heart knows. But yeah, I do feel that there can be moments where it's not really that I forget, but there's certain areas, like if it's sometimes like a particular story could show up. Like for example, this morning my son is a little bit sick and he's not eating very well. So like I'm kind of getting like a little bit irritated, you know. And it's not because he doesn't really have an appetite. It's just he's just kind of being stubborn. Like I'm giving him things he doesn't want to eat. So I'm kind of feeling a bit like, whereas maybe, I think there's space there where I could be, it doesn't have to like bother me so much, so there's still like a little bit. So when I see those little bits of like tension that come in, there's still little bits of belief in the story. I don't know if that's a great example because there's not like a huge charge, but there's a bit of a charge, and different stories there can be little charges. So anytime you see a charge, and I think by charge I mean some kind of belief in that this everything that's coming and going, it means something for me. I know people can be very triggered by that. Like if you say like that doesn't have any meaning. So also I don't know if it has meaning or not. I think in the bigger picture, potentially it could have meaning. I don't think everything is for nothing, but it doesn't have any meaning, any personal meaning, because those things that give charge are like a personal meaning. It's a meaning to the story of like Amba. I'm sure like my neighbor across the road doesn't really care if my son eats breakfast or not. It's like, okay. Like I don't really care about other people's children. If they, even when I'm taking care of other people's children, if they don't eat well that day, it's like it's fine. I know they're gonna eat some other time. So it really it doesn't really bother me. So it's like a personal charge. So but I do feel like, so you can know the truth of who you are and really know it in your heart. And that's like it's usually important for those when those charges come. I don't know, that's a great word, like the charges, but like that's needed because that's the remedy, and I don't feel like there is really any other true remedy. And there's loads of different healing things in the world, but I actually think they're all, I have this kind of mind that makes everything be the same. That's kind of how my mind works. Somehow. But like I hear about some kind of healing technique and then another a spiritual text and then a totally different spiritual text. But like somehow when I hear them, the way they get filtered through me, it's just the same. It's really just like trying to bring us back to our heart and reality and what's really here and what's our direct experience, what do we really see? And that's the truth of who we are. Now, I know you could probably keep talking and saying millions of things. Like, I don't know.
We've been tugging on this thread for a good while, and one of the things that I saw myself say and heard myself say on a previous video that I watched just a little bit of is you had said something, to address this question, and I got really quiet, and I opened my eyes and said that this feels like the end of personhood.
Yeah,
It's really just something. There was a sense of dissolving somehow.
yeah. And that's what it is.
Mm.
What it is. The end of personhood. I don't really use those words quite so much because I think those words are good if they do it for you, you know, and that really is what it is. But yeah, I suppose like the end of taking things personally, it could be like that because I think there is still like an individuality. Like, so Steve is probably always going to have a different expression than Amba, you know, like however you express yourself and certain things that you do. And somebody will love the way you are, but they will maybe all really bother them, you know, or the other way around, even though our essence is the same, like who we are is actually the same. We're the same spirit. And there is like, I don't know, spirit. I think spirit is a good, like, spirit is the, um, what did I say there? The remedy.
Mm.
So spirit is the remedy, and spirit is here in our hearts, and that's what all these spiritual texts where they come from. They come from spirit, and I feel like saying like they take us with them. So they take all the personal stuff away, and then we just get absorbed in spirit. And true, this is kind of making a dividing line that's not really there, but in a way, it is like that. We then spirit takes us home. So
Mm.
in a way, we're not really. Well, we are. See, there's nothing you can say. I was gonna say like we're not really spirit, but we are spirit. But in a way, there's a greater truth even than spirit. So spirit is needed, like the Holy Spirit, or like people say, like Sakura, that's needed for this world where we're all taking ourselves personally. But in another world or in no world, like spirit is not needed when you're not confused. The spirit is the remedy for confusion. And that'll probably always be needed in this world because that's what this world, I mean, I'm sure it's more than that, but that's what it seems to be. It's a place to, I don't know, maybe some part of us is confused and this world is a place for getting over that. It's kind of like a hospital. Sometimes people call it like a school, and maybe it's like a school as well, but I, right now I feel like I like hospital better. It's a hospital. It's a place where we can come to heal.
Mm, beautiful.
Yeah.
So, in this chapter of The Way of the Bodhisattva, I think we're on a
Yeah.
chapter called Diligence.
Yeah.
I just read the first few verses a little earlier this morning, and I didn't prepare a long introduction except to try to mention that um, when you talk about a hostel, it's like it's very clear that Shantideva is saying there are lessons to be learned here.
Mm,
And if you don't get on it, your chance is going to be over. So he's trying to
yeah.
create a little urgency here and to say that, your physical body is definitely going to come to an end.
Yeah.
And so he's encouraging us to apply a little diligence here. And that's really that is the name of the chapter.
Yeah. But and hopefully this chapter, I'm sure it will inject a little bit of urgency into us. And I think we can take that at any time, because it's very obvious that like our bodies are going to end. And like when you're kind of young or probably any age, like you don't really think that the end is near, you know. Probably like even when you're older, I don't know really, but like I don't feel like that sense really comes in. You just feel like you're gonna live forever because maybe we're connected to our true self that is gonna live forever as well. But this human body is going to end, and like even being in spirit, like in a way, we're kind of when you look back, you might see a point in your life when it seems like spirituality started, but
Mm,
the more time goes on, you realize actually you've always been in it. Like if you look back to your even in your childhood and all, like you can say, okay, well, it was happening. So I feel like it is happening for everybody, but you can kind of see how slow it is. I know maybe some people are faster, but my growth in spirituality, if you could say that, is very slow. I feel like I'm very, very slow. So there is like an urgency to, really just discover the spirit because then spirit, you just have to give everything over to spirit. Then you don't have to do anything. Like it is good to remain vigilant. Maybe diligence and vigilance are similar, and you have to continue to give yourself over to spirit and give everything up to spirit. But spirit is the one who decides the pace.
mm.
Anyway,
Would you like to read? We've been starting
Hmm.
out with you reading. It seems so appropriate somehow.
Okay, sure. I just want to say I'm very grateful for you and your just being here and your encouragement and uh, you're the driver of this. The driver. I'm the passenger. I'm sitting in the passenger seat here. Okay. Diligence. Thus, with patience, I will strive with diligence, for in such diligence enlightenment is found. If no wind blows, then nothing stirs, and neither is there merit without diligence. Diligence means joy in virtuous ways. Its contraries have been defined as laziness, an inclination for unwholesomeness, defeatism, and self contempt, a taste for idle pleasure, and a craving for repose and sleep. No qualms about the sorrows of samsara. Laziness indeed is born from these. And it really means laziness in spiritual terms, I feel, or that's how I want to take it. Because I want to take it like that probably because I can see that like there's laziness here. But not really in spiritual terms. Maybe sometimes. But I mean like I can have a lazy day. I don't have to go out and do work. I don't have to clean my house. I can just like sit around and let my body rest if that's what's called for. So I don't really feel like it's that type of laziness. Laziness means like continuing to not make any effort and just go with the mind stories. Someone comes and shouts at me and I'll blame them. Someone does something I don't like and I think they're wrong. Just laziness, like no effort to like say, hold on a minute and just slow down a little bit and self-reflect and see what's going on inside me. So I think that's what laziness would be here. And of course that's okay as well sometimes because we are in Maya, and that's the power of Maya is that it overtakes our minds. But like we should be making effort wherever we can, and I do think that we all have we all have enough consciousness to apply um diligence somewhere, maybe not to the whole of our life all at once. But that's what time is for. Time and space are created for that, if anything.
Mm, beautiful.
Okay. Snared by the trapper of defiled emotion, enmeshed and taken in the toils of birth, again you've strayed into the maw of death. What is it? Have you still not understood? Don't you see how, one by one, death has come for all your kind? And yet you slumber on so soundly, like a buffalo beside its butcher. All the paths of flight are blocked. The Lord of Death now has you in his sights. How can you take such pleasure in your food, and how can you delight to rest and sleep? Death will swoop on you so swiftly. Gather merit, till that moment comes. For even if you then throw off your indolence, what will you do when there is no more time? What does it say back here about merit?
It says, gather merit till that moment comes. So I think for context, we have to say that this is a Buddhist text and that we're not calling ourselves Buddhist scholars here. We're just trying to make
Yeah,
this real for someone who stumbles along here and
yeah,
or stumbles onto our discussion and
yeah.
maybe wants to get some value.
And in the first verse, it says, and neither is there merit without diligence. So that's what he's saying there. When there's no, like that, before death comes, like gather some merit. So it means like be diligent and like apply yourself to, I guess I would say, like trying to recognize the truth of who you are in whatever way you know how. So it could be from verses of this text, that inspire you, or it could be coming from anywhere. But really it's that we're not taking things personally and getting attached to things, and anything that is causing us trouble, that we're getting curious about it and maybe taking some responsibility, and really just bringing our attention inward.
Maybe bringing our attention onto attention itself.
Yeah, we could bring attention to attention itself and notice that attention is really just the light that is coming from the source that we are. So that's what attention is, isn't it? This is how Ananta used to share. He doesn't really share like that anymore, but he used to share in such a way. If anyone's ever interested in listening to some of Ananta's satsang, like the earlier ones, he gets very clear about breaking things down, and helping you to look inside. But that's what attention is. It's like, so we're here and we're just like, really, let's say we're light. And if you don't have your attention on anything, then you don't really see anything. How do you see? It's like you put your attention. So right now, if I just focus on you, my attention is not, like now because I'm talking about it, it's coming into my attention. But like I don't really know what's over there on my shelf because my attention is not there. So if I look over there, then it's kind of like I'm shining my light over there. So that's what, like, I'm putting my attention over there. But it is good to bring your awareness to attention because then you get more clear about what it is. Because sometimes we take ourselves to be attention, but we're also not attention. Attention is an aspect, maybe, and it's a power that we have. We can use it, we can put it here or there, but we can also point. We can't really. It's talked like that, like we can point it back on ourselves. But really, if we make that effort to try to point it back on ourselves, what really happens is it dissolves altogether because you can't really point it back, or it's like because it's like how do you if you have a torch and when you press the torch, the light comes on. You can't really make the light turn around. It's coming from one place and that's it. But somehow when you try to make that effort to bring your attention backwards, you'll find like what happens is your attention has to open. It's not focused on one thing anymore. So it opens. And then in a way it dissolves. And when your attention dissolves, then like okay, I'm just here. So it's like beingness, light, it's not shining its attention on anything. It's not, you could say it's not creating anything, creating anything for a minute. So it just sees itself. And then it's like, okay, so that light, the light and the source of light are the same thing. You see it then when you're not shining your attention on things.
So we came from merit, and I kind of interrupted you there. Did you
Yeah,
want to say
sorry.
something more about that?
No.
Okay. He's talking about in verse 7, he's talking about gather merit till that moment comes. For even if you
Yeah,
then throw off your indolence, what will you do when there is no more time?
yeah, yeah. So on your last day, you're about to die. Like, have you spent any time? Have you spent any time being curious about who you are? You know, that's what's gonna matter. It's not the only thing that matters. Because I think we are naturally love. I think love matters, so I think many of us, even if we're not inclined to question who we are, we still somehow we naturally try to imbibe the natural qualities of like love and kindness. And so of course, like those things matter as well. Thing is, like spirit is here and it's working through all of us, whether we know it or not. It's just, I feel like when we know it, it has a better job. Like it's easier. It's easier for it because we can surrender to it. So when we don't know, it's like there's a fight at certain times. The fight might not be there all the time. And then also there's a conflict, so spirit is here like doing its work regardless. But then there's also this like something, this imagined thing like wanting to do its work. That's like totally unimportant. Probably wants to get something for itself. Want to earn 10,000 this month so I can have a comfortable chair. I want to have best lazy boy chair, best laptop, and the best coffee or something. I don't know. I need 10,000 a month for that, whatever it is. I haven't even got a great imagination because I haven't got huge aspirations in that way. But yeah, so like that's kind of, in a way, you could say that is interfering with the work of the spirit. It's not really it doesn't feel totally true when I say that, because I feel like spirit can still do stuff. You can use whatever it finds. But when we recognize that the spirit is here, we can just like surrender. And I do feel like spirit can just do its work much better. And we'll be much more peaceful because there won't be a fight. So anyway, I hope I'm not talking too much. Let's just come by itself. This I have not done, and this I'm only starting, and this I'm only halfway through. Then is the sudden coming of the Lord of Death, and oh, the thought, alas, I'm finished. You'll look upon the faces of your hopeless friends, their tear-stained cheeks, their red and swollen eyes, for such will be the depths of their distress, and then you'll see the heralds of the deadly Lord. The memory of former sins will torture you. The screams and din of hell break on your ears. With very terror you will foul yourself. What will you do in such delirium? If, like a living fish that twists and writhes, you are so terrified while still alive, what need to speak of pain unbearable in hells created by past evil deeds? How can you remain at ease like this when you have done the deeds that lead to contact on your tender baby flesh of boiling liquids in the hell of extreme heat? Very dramatic, isn't it?
Quite.
Very dramatic and like poetic. It's like creating some kind of serious picture.
No doubt.
So testy and thin-skinned, you want results without endeavor. Yeah. This reminds me of like Muji sometimes says, or he used to say, like, if I had a pill here and if you could just take it and like be totally like free or enlightened, like who wants it? And like some people would be like, yeah, I want it. Like we just want to be enlightened without putting any effort in or without doing any work. But many of us don't though, because it doesn't really work like that. Because if you take the pill, then maybe you haven't really learned anything. So then a demon appears in front of you after 5 years, and like you don't really know that demon can't hurt you because you're just taking a pill. You didn't learn anything. So.
Well, now you make me feel bad for wanting to take the pill. Because I want to be able to face the demon, don't I?
Yeah. I think that's what we really want. If we maybe not. I can't say it's wrong to want to take the pill. There's all different types of people, and maybe it's okay to want to take the pill. But the thing is, there is no pill. There is no pill. Well, even saying that, I don't know. There could be a pill. There could be a pill. I don't know. But I haven't been given the pill. I have to do the work. And I think most of us do. And until the pill appears, we have to do it. If someone, So if spirit just appears in front of you in whatever form you desire, whatever form you choose, like Shanti David, Jesus, Buddha, I don't know, whoever you want, and he offers it to you, like we'd probably take it. Like I mean, I'd probably take it if it was offered, if I felt like it was really true. But maybe I wouldn't, like because that question did appear to me when I was really young. I remember, like I don't know, I'm sure my mind just made it up, but that question appeared, and I felt like it was like the question was something like if all the angels and God and all appeared and just said, like, gave you all the answers for everything. It was very simple, because I was, like, do you want to? And something in me was like, no, I don't. Like, I feel like you want to find your own way. Just like a child, a child doesn't really want to be told all the answers. They like exploring and discovering. And if they're like in a forest or something, they'll want to be the leader and find their own way and discover things for themselves. So just kind of our human nature kind of reflects our um it reflects like just something like deeper in us, I think, as well. Yeah.
The desire to go and explore and find things
Yeah.
out rather than just sort of a desire to so much as pour the answers into us.
Yeah. Yeah. But like I hear myself when I'm saying that, and I kind of feel like it's probably not true for everyone, so there's no right or wrong. You just have to see where you are. But you can't,
Mm,
I think if you just wait around, you're just waiting around your whole life for a magic pill. That's laziness.
mm.
That would be what I call laziness. And if you're listening to this, or if you were reading The Way of the Bodhisattva and you came that, you're obviously attracted to like the message that it's given. So therefore you don't want to be just sitting around waiting for a magic pill, you know.
What I love is how Amba will just be saying something and something will come out that surprises her. And she'll just giggle at, oh, I like to do that too. And I'm out with my friends. I'll say something that I think is funny and I'll have a good laugh. It's like I've tickled myself with it.
I know. The last time I was in India and Anta was kind of making fun of me. He liked to make fun of me. So he was making fun of me saying, yeah, I love how you just like you laugh at your own jokes, but like when nobody else is. And I was kind of like, yeah, that's true.
Well, here's my permission to go on doing that forever.
Thank you.
Meanwhile,
You can take over
uh,
now, I think.
say again?
Would you like to take over?
I think we're 13.
Yeah.
So,
Or yeah, go.
so testy and thin-skinned. You want results without endeavor. Many are the troubles now in store for you. Though in the grip of death you are behaving like a god, and suffering, alas, will beat you down. So take advantage of this human boat. Free yourself from sorrow's mighty stream. This vessel will be later hard to find. The time that you have now, you fool, is not for sleep. You turn your back upon the sacred doctrine, supreme joy and boundless source of bliss. Why delight in mere excitement, in distractions that will cause you misery? Do not be downcast, but marshal all your powers. Make an effort. Be the master of yourself. Practice the equality of self and other. Practice the exchange of self and other. Can you say something about that? The exchange of self and other? Is there anything in that verse you want to say something about?
Not really. I was wondering what it meant myself. I don't really know. Practice the equality of self and other is easy, isn't it? And practice the exchange of self and other. Maybe it's just like putting someone else like in front of you, so you're not like self-important. So if we're together, I'll put you first. Like, what do you want to do?
Okay.
I don't know. That's all that came. I don't- Could be anything.
Okay. Oh, but how could I become enlightened? Don't excuse yourself with such despondency. The Buddha, who declares the truth, has truly spoken and proclaimed that if they bring forth strength of perseverance, Even bees and flies and gnats and grubs will gain supreme enlightenment, so hard to find. And if by birth and lineage of human mind I'm able to distinguish good from ill, and do not leave aside the bodhisattva deeds, why should I not attain the state of Buddhahood? That I must give away my life and limbs alarms and frightens me. If so you say, your terror is misplaced. Confused, you fail to see what's hard and what is easy. For myriads of ages, measureless, uncounted, your body has been cut, impaled, burned, torn for times past numbering. Yet none of these has brought you Buddhahood. The hardships suffered on the path to Buddhahood are limited in their extent and likened to the pain of an incision made to cure the harms of inward ills. And all our doctors cure disease by means of bitter remedies. Likewise, to destroy a vast amount of pain, we should be patient with our little hurts. And yet the Supreme Healer does not use like them these common remedies. With ways of extreme tenderness, he soothes away intense and boundless suffering. Our guide instructs us to begin by giving vegetable greens or other little things, that later, step by step, the habit once acquired, we may be able to donate our very flesh. For when we truly feel our bodies are no different from the given herbs, what hardship can there be in giving up, relinquishing our very flesh? That's a good one somehow.
Yeah. it is.
It really makes me see my body in a, a different light, like
Mhm.
it's not like a car, but a vehicle.
Mm.
Yeah.
But it's a good analogy, to just say it's like a car. It's just so they say it's like an instrument.
Mm,
It's just something for spirit to use,
mm,
like
mm,
using everything.
beautiful. Sin has been abandoned, thus there is no pain. Through having wisdom there is no more sorrow. For so it is that mind and body both are injured by false views and sinfulness. Merit is the true cause of the body's ease, while happiness of mind is had through understanding. Who can sadden those who have compassion, who remain within samsara for the sake of beings? For through their power of bodhicitta, former sins are totally consumed, and merit, ocean vast, is gathered in. It's therefore said that they excel the Shravakas. I have a
Yeah,
footnote
that's it.
there.
Yeah.
Shravakas. Um, is the name given to the Hinayana disciples of the Buddha. They aim to free themselves from samsara and attain the perfect cessation of all suffering. So, um, I'm not sure what to say. He's reintroducing bodhicitta there,
Mm.
um, just in case someone's jumping into this chapter.
Hmm.
What is this, chapter 7?
Yeah.
It's later on, so if someone's missed the first 6 chapters,
Yeah.
they can go back if they want to. But
Hmm.
is there something to be said about bodhicitta here?
Um, I don't know, is there?
Well, it's I remember trying to define it as the attitude of enlightenment, and when I did it that way, I'm remembering, and this is months ago now, that you corrected me, said no, no, Steve.
I have to say I really can't remember.
Okay,
Like my mind is totally empty right now about what is bodhicitta and what is bodhisattva.
okay,
I can't
okay,
remember.
okay.
So what is it again? We need to remember. Bodhisattva is like one who's totally free and they're working to free other beings. But bodhicitta is something else.
Okay,
We should look it up.
let's see here
Refresh our memory.
if we can
Bodhicitta, I think, yeah, is the enlightened view, kind of.
well,
What they
chapter
call the
one, yeah, the chapter
enlightened.
one is the excellence of bodhicitta. So let's just refer back there for a moment. Well, I mean, those who wish to crush the many sorrows of existence, who wish to quell the pain of living beings, who wish to have experience of myriad joys, should never turn away from bodhicitta. For like the supreme substance of the alchemist, it takes our impure flesh and makes of it the body of a Buddha, jewel beyond all price. Such is bodhicitta. Let us grasp it firmly. So he introduces bodhicitta way back in chapter one to say, this is what we're going for. And I think the current chapter 7, he's saying, diligence is one of those things you've got to have sort of in your backpack on the journey to sort of realizing it. And I'm stumbling through my words a bit here. So verse 30 here, back in the chapter we're on, diligence, mounted on the horse of bodhicitta, which puts to flight all mournful weariness. What lucid person could be in despair, proceeding in this way from joy to joy?
Well, what did we say bodhicitta is?
Well, I said it was sort of this attitude of enlightenment.
Well, it's kind of like I want to distinguish the difference between bodhicitta and bodhisattva. Because what is this book called? The Way of Bodhisattva. So bodhisattva is like someone who has completed, in a way. They're living as a bodhisattva. So, and bodhicitta is more like what you would follow. Like it's like the energy that we're like, let's say the stream that we're drawn into or something, the what we choose over our usual way. We're going to choose the bodhicitta way. And the bodhicitta way is like an aspirant in a way. It's you're aspiring to behave as a bodhisattva. Is that what bodhicitta is?
I'm I'm willing to sit with that as a possible
Yeah,
description.
they're all words. This says here, when you just type it into Google, it says bodhicitta as awakening mind is the intention to awaken to life in order to help others awaken to life. Yeah, so it's kind of like you're not just awakening for yourself. It's like, but still, somehow I don't know what the difference is between a bodhicitta and bodhisattva. So bodhisattva is just the actual person, and bodhicitta is the energy that you're stepping into. Well,
Yeah, and the bodhisattva, I think by definition, is one who's willing to cultivate bodhicitta above
yeah,
all else,
yeah,
even beyond the death of the physical body, potentially.
yeah. So in a way, like bodhicitta is really spirit, because spirit is not here for personal things.
Ah, there you
It's
go.
here to serve others and to serve not others even. It's here to serve, because there is no others. Like what spirit sees is just what is, and spirit is here to serve what is. So if we're to adopt bodhicitta, that's what we're choosing that we want to do. We're here to serve, so that means we're leaving aside all the personal kind of stuff. And anytime idea of personal things come in, we're going to say, like, that's not really what I want. So how can I choose bodhicitta here instead? So in a way, like
Beautiful.
when you're choosing bodhicitta, in that moment, you are like bodhisattva. Like that is the way of bodhisattva. So the reason why we're just like, I think it's good to clarify the words as well. And like we need to clarify the words because I'm not very I'm not used to the words of like Buddhist texts, even though I have read a lot of Buddhist texts, but my mind, like things just go in one side and out the other. I don't like retain. So like, I mean, next time we meet, we could be having the same conversation.
Uh,
Bring
well,
it on.
we do keep coming back to the truth of who you are. You know, that
Yeah,
to me is sort of a touch point for, you know, a lot of our conversations pivot
yeah,
around that, so that the terms that we're
yeah.
working with here are, you know, all somehow related.
That's the thing is like we all know what it is. It's just like words, and I think that these kind of books, like The Way of Bodhisattva, oh, it's invisible because of my fake room. um, The Way of Bodhisattva, like you might see this on a bookshelf and think, no, I don't know anything about Buddhism. You know, I'm not interested in Buddhism, so I'm not going to read that. But like, I think one of the reasons, at least for me, like why we have these conversations, it's more like to make these texts available to everyone and anyone, and to make a very just simple language for this year, this era of whatever year we're in. But this was like probably written in, I don't know what year this was written
I think
in.
it's from the 1400s.
Okay, so it's like a different time, and probably even if you're into different, if he was in a Buddhist tradition, he uses those words. So we're kind of hoping to make it more accessible for like just the average person who sits on their sofa and watches Netflix or whatever. Or other people, more intelligent people also. No, not that they're not intelligent, like I mean, that's basically me. So, oh no, gonna have to edit this through. Don't want to offend anybody. No, I mean, what I mean is just like it's universal for everyone, whether you're very kind of intellectual and you like to study a lot, or like people who really don't. And like maybe that's like a more intelligent approach, you know, to not be so learned about like all books and getting the facts right and the dates right and everything right. Like it's all like storing information in the mind, isn't it? Yeah. One isn't better than the other, but yeah, I'm sure everything has a place. We can all help it.
We are at 10:54, and on a nice round number, we finished verse 30. Do you want to read a little more? Do you want to call it here?
Let's read a little bit.
Okay.
Will I read it?
Would you like to?
Yeah. Mounted on the horse of bodhicitta, which puts to flight all mournful weariness, what lucid person could be in despair, proceeding in this way from joy to joy? The forces that secure the good of beings are aspiration, steadfastness, relinquishment, and joy. Aspiration grows through fear of suffering and contemplation of the benefits to be attained. Therefore, leaving everything that is adverse to it, I'll labor to increase my diligence through aspiration and self-confidence, relinquishment and joy, by strength of earnest application and exertion of control. The boundless evils of myself and others, I must bring them all to nothing, even though a single of these ills may take unnumbered ages to exhaust. And if I find within myself no sign that faults are even starting to be cleansed, why does my heart not burst asunder, destined as I am for boundless pain? Good qualities for my and others' sake, though they be many, though they be many, I must now accomplish, even though for each of them I must endeavour for unnumbered ages. Acquaintance I have never gained with even part of such great qualities. It is indeed amazing that I render meaningless this life that somehow I have gained. Offerings to the Buddhas I have never made. No feasts were ever held through my donations. No works have I accomplished for the teachings. The wishes of the poor I left unsatisfied. I have not saved the frightened from their fear. The wretched I have not consoled. My mother's pain, her womb's discomfort, these alone are my accomplishments. Oh dear,
Indeed.
he's so dramatic. My failure to aspire to Dharma, now and in the past, has brought me to my present dereliction. who therefore would spurn such aspiration. Aspiration, so the sage asserted, is the root of every kind of virtue. Aspiration's root, in turn, is constant meditation on the fruits of action. The body's pains, anxieties of mind, and all my fears of various kinds, to be deprived of what I want, such is the harvest of my sinful deeds. But if my acts are good, sincerely intended, then no matter where I turn my steps, the merit gained will honor me with its resulting benefits. But if through seeking happiness my deeds are wrong, no matter where I turn my steps, the knives of misery will cut me down, the wage and retribution of a sinful life. Through virtue I will rest within the cool heart of a fragrant spreading lotus, with splendor nurtured by the sweet words of the conqueror. Then from the lotus opened in the sage's light, in supreme form I will arise, to dwell, the blissful Buddha's air, in presence of victorious ones. Or else, as wages of my many sins, my skin completely flayed, I shall be utterly brought low by creatures of the Lord of Death, who on my body pour a liquid bronze all melted in the dreadful blaze, and pierced by burning swords and knives, my flesh, dismembered in 100 parts, will fall upon the white-hot iron ground. Therefore I will aspire and tend to virtue, and steep myself in it with great devotion, and with the method stated in the Vajradhavaja, I will train in confident assurance. What's the Vaj, that word that you can apply to say?
I have a footnote there.
Mhm.
Um, the is in fact a subsection of the larger Avatamsaka Sutra. The following passage is taken from it. When the sun shines, O Devaputra, it illuminates the entire world, regardless of the blindness of beings and the mountain shadows. In the same way, bodhisattvas appear for the liberation of beings, regardless of the obstacles that they may present.
Yeah. So, Shantideva is very kind of poetic, and in his poetry, it sounds quite dramatic. But I feel like the message that I get, you can say something else, is really just, because the whole nature of this book is about aspiring to live in the way of the Bodhisattva. So this whole part has just been about choosing to live in a non-personal way and choosing to serve others where we can and not being lazy about it, you know. So he's not even saying like, what I say in the midst of all this about like questioning who you are and all. He's not saying anything like that. So you can disregard all that if you want to only live in this. That's just my kind of interpretation because that's you could say the filter
Yeah.
that I see through.
I want to hearken back to the sentence by strength of earnest application and exertion of control. Um, you were talking about how you're a little bothered by your son not eating,
Hmm.
and how that sort of brought something up for you, that presented something for you to
Mm,
address. For me, there's so much in parenting where that
mm,
called on me to have to be a grown up.
yeah,
It's like using the front part of my brain somehow.
yeah,
And I feel like that's a lot is of what's going on in self-inquiry, or really just, conscientiously and consciously sitting quietly,
mhm,
is using the grown-up part of the brain to control stuff like laziness,
yeah,
the desire for it, quick gratification,
mm,
lust, all this stuff that just continuously just presents in the mind stream like, hey, come and do
yeah,
this, come and do that.
yeah.
Anyway,
You say like grown up, and it is kind of associated with grown up, like a grown up human. But I actually think it's like a maturing of consciousness.
there you go.
There are many grown ups who don't mature in many ways. So it's not just like being an adult or a grown up, and some people who are very young are very mature in their consciousness, and they don't have to experience a lot of nonsense because of their maturity.
Mm, mm,
But it is like, yeah, I think this whole experience of life is about maturing in consciousness. And the most matured consciousness really is that, like, of a bodhisattva,
mm,
so you're really one with spirit and here to serve. And that's what we're like aspiring towards. So in one moment we might be like that, and in another moment we might not be. So when we are like that, you can be grateful because sometimes it just happens without effort, doesn't it? Like, but the more we effort we put in, then we see that it just happens by itself. And then so that's like what you might call like the fruit of your work. The fruit of your effort is when it just happens without even thinking about it.
mm,
And like you do get a fruit, like you are kind of in a way even eating the fruit because it feels really good to be like that. Like so to it feels really good to be compassionate or kind or loving, so we do benefit from that. But we can't really make that happen, you know. But we can, when it's not happening, we're trying to make it happen. And maybe in those like trying moments is not when it happens, like it just comes at another time. Usually so.
mm. I'm just so happy to see you.
Same here. I'm very
Mm.
grateful for our time together and for you uh talking me into the words are coming as like forcing me for like so I'll just say for like forcing me to lead the way of bodhisattva and to reflect on it.
Yeah, very good stuff. Very good stuff. And if this helps even one person, even many years from now,
Yeah,
our mission will be accomplished
yeah. I think our mission is accomplished anyway.
just by having the conversation.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I know. Don't feel like it.
Can I take a moment to ask you about your potential plan to come to Portugal? Are you wanting to see Muji or Mira or come to the Algarve?
Oh yeah, I definitely want to see Moody. That's my plan. And I'm applying to you have to apply and go through a whole process and all to stay there. And so I hope that'll all go smoothly. But like I'll probably have some time in Portugal on either end, maybe. I don't know. And even if for some reason like I wasn't able to go there, I think I would still come to Portugal anyway.
Okay.
So don't know. The details aren't kind of uh, I can't think of the right word. Planned.
Okay. So they
The
haven't all
details
come
aren't planned.
together and you're
Yeah, I
you're
don't know the
thinking,
exact details yet, but
okay.
pretty sure I'm coming and I am in touch with Sahaj, and that's my main reason that I want to go because I want to go there. But I would love to see you, and it would be very cool to go and see like Mira.
Hmm.
Is it called Ganga Mira these days or just Mira?
She refers to herself as Mira, but other people in satsang refer to as Ganga. So,
Okay. So
hmm,
when I know details, I'll let you know.
okay. So, if I were to want to be in Sahaj at the same time as you, I'd apply to come and stay there for some part of February.
Yeah, I'll tell you the date when I know, but I'm applying for either they ask you what dates you want to go, so I gave some dates in February and then I gave an alternative date in March.
Okay.
That's basically when Eshan's on a summer holiday.
Ah, okay.
Would you like to
Okay.
go and stay there? Elsa?
If it's possible, sure.
Oh my God, it'd be so cool. It's like heaven.
No
You'll be
kidding.
stepping into heaven. You should really go.
Ah, well,
Mm.
how can you rebuff an invitation like that?
Yeah. Mm.
Okay, well, good. So let's do this first of next month if you're available, and we'll continue from verse 43, I think.
Yeah. Let's see. I have a little. Um. Well, we'll be starting on verse 47.
Okay, okay, sounds good.
You then. I wish you good luck in the way of the Bodhisattva.
Thank you. I have to gather all the resources I can.
Yeah.
Okay. Much love.